Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. Our mission at cityCURRENT is to power the good, and we do that through positive media, events, and philanthropy. This show features interviews with a mix of business and community leaders who discuss important efforts, trends, lessons learned, and ways to get involved so we can learn more about our community and work together to make a difference. Now, on to the show. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love having our cityCURRENT partners come on and share a wealth of information. We're going to talk about your wealth and protecting it, growing it, and so much more. Here with us, we have Chronicle Partners. We have Brian Reichenbach. He is the COO and Co-Founder, and Chris White, the CEO and Co-Founder. How are you two guys doing?
Doing awesome. Well, thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for having us.
So Chris, Brian, let's start out with a little bit of just how you describe the work you do, because I mentioned wealth management, protecting, growing assets, but it's so much more. So when you talk about a little bit of a description, give us some description on Chronicle Partners.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's always a joy to be with you, man. I always get pumped up when you do those intros. And I saw what you did there with a wealth of knowledge. That was very, very well done, sir. Yeah, Chronicle Partners, we specialize and focus on comprehensive financial planning. And I think what all those words I just used are buzzwords, and different people interpret them in different ways. And in fact, I was visiting with a gal this morning, and different, folks hold themselves out as financial advisors, financial planners, wealth advisors, and really different people that carry those titles do a lot of different things. And so for us as financial planners, Brian and I are certified financial planners. We really specialize in that comprehensive plan, which is really eight pieces. So you've got retirement and investments, which that's what most people think of when they think of financial planners or financial advisors. But then we also really dig into tax planning, estate planning, charitable planning, insurance. You got some people that just focus on insurance, and then cash flow management, as well as education planning. So those are the 8 pieces. And what we do as a team, and we work very collaboratively as a team and with other professionals to bring in those services. But what we do is we look at each piece individually of the plan. We make sure that each piece is in good shape, that, we figure out where are we today, where do we desire to be? And then we make tweaks and changes in each one of those pieces, and then we pull it all back together, develop the plan, implement the plan, and then monitor moving forward with a high-touch client service model. So we do the comprehensive planning, we care for assets as well, and then we also do some business strategy with some of our business owner clients as well. So big picture, that's what we do.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you kind of point out all the different pieces of the puzzle, and that so many focus on one or two, but there's a lot that goes into it. And as you mentioned, it's not just the collaboration with your team, it's the collaboration with other experts. Brian, dive into that a little bit on when you're pulling all these different pieces of the puzzle together and all these different collaborators. What does that look like? How does that manifest itself on your end?
That's a great question. I think anytime someone asks me what we do, I always bristle because it's so hard to describe, and it's so hard for us to explain exactly how we might bring value to each individual person. So this is one really good way that honestly almost no one, especially the more complicated your situation gets, very few people can really explain how all of those different pieces work together. And honestly, a lot of people assume that they do just kind of function the way that they should. And unfortunately, they don't. And I think a tax return is a good example of a lot of folks think that their CPA knows everything and that everything's going to be entered in the way that it should. But if you've got a financial planner and you've got a CPA, those two people should be talking. I mean, they really need to be, because the tax form that you'll get from your investment account doesn't tell the whole story. You've a lot of different examples that you can use, but unless there's a conversation and to dive beneath that surface level of detail, some pretty big things can happen. So, Chris mentioned estate planning too. Again, that's another great example of, you can do some really, really great planning, but if you don't dot the I's and cross the T's, you can miss out. I mean, as basic things of, we create a trust and then we don't adequately title or correctly title things to the trust, documents are pretty much meaningless now. So you can have the best intentions, but unless you've got some folks helping explain why you're doing the things and how the different puzzle pieces fit together, a lot of the best laid plans just don't get you where you want to go.
And that goes back to the education component. But like you said, it's more work to reach out to the CPA and make sure that everything is, correct and planning ahead and looking at all the different scenarios. But the end result is so much more powerful. And what it means, obviously, to the client is, that's the whole difference. One of the big things, obviously, is the stock markets right now, inflation. There's a lot of things going on. How do you contextualize that for your clients? Let's start there, and then we'll kind of take them as pieces. But how do you contextualize what's going on right now and put it in kind of a frame of reference for your clients?
It's a good question. I think the big headlines right now, like you said, inflation is the big one that's caught a lot of headlines. We're at, I think the most recent number is 7.5% inflation rate, the highest since, I forget the year, but the 80s, 1982, something like that. The highest rate of inflation for 40 years, which is pretty wild to think of. So inflation, and that's been a huge change, because we have been in an extremely low inflationary environment for a long time. So this has been something that we've known has been coming for a while, but it has been it's been a torrent. It's been a monsoon as opposed to a trickle in that direction. It really hit us in the face. So that along with the fact that the stock market has been doing really, really positively up until the last month. We had a major decline with the outbreak of COVID at the beginning of 2020, and then really since then, through a lot of negative news headlines, the stock market's been very, very positive, to the surprise of many of us. So the last big headline, I think, is interest rates. So interest rates have been very, very low for a while. They are starting to rise, and the Fed has intimated very, very clearly that they are going to start raising interest rates probably 2, 3, 4 times throughout the course of this year. That's again something that we've known has been on the forecast for a long time, but we're now there. So interest rates rising plus inflation has caused the most recent decline in the stock market we've seen. We've seen the correction that we've been waiting for the last couple of years. It's normal. I think that's the most important thing to talk about. It's normal. The good statistic that we always talk about is every calendar year, so a correction is defined as a 10 to 15% decline in the stock market. And every single calendar year, not every single, but the average decline in every calendar year is just over 14%. It's normal to have a correction every single year. It's always a different reason. We always look in the rear view and say, why did it happen? But it's normal. It always happens. And that should not derail. It shouldn't change your planning, part of your planning. And, you talk about contextualization. When you're investing, you're looking at your goals and your timeframes around the dollars that you're investing. You got to be prepared for these declines, because if you're investing for retirement, you've got decades to go. So buckle up, because you're gonna see a lot of declines like this, and it's part of the ride. And you need to be prepared for it. And if you're someone who just can't handle quite as much volatility, then there are ways to invest more conservatively. But the downside right now for those folks that are more conservative is that rising interest rate environment. In the low interest rate environment, conservative investing is very, very challenging right now.
Chris, what would you add in terms of not just the context, as Brian is alluding to, and understanding kind of the big picture, but also too what that means for you on the education front to really be proactive with your clients?
We had a conversation with the client, probably 3-4 weeks ago. And I love that Brian reiterated that this time is not different. And I think it was Sir John Templeton that said it. If not, it was someone, in bygone years. But when folks say that this time is different, it's not. It could look different, but at the same point in time, what we've seen, at least through history, would suggest that where we are today is not, from a planning perspective, it's not going to shift the way that we should plan. And so I think the thing that I continue to be reminded of, especially when you're looking at headlines, especially when you see the market correct like it did earlier this year, albeit that was a short correction, it went like this and then popped back up really quickly. But I'm just reminded of the importance of planning. And we continue to bring those that we get to serve, we continue to bring them back to that of, again, we have to trust in the process. We've got to trust in the plan that we're putting together. And when the market goes down, again, as Brian said, that's normal. It's actually healthy. There's good health to the market correcting, and then that also presents opportunities. There's some silver linings. And so and with rising interest rates, one of the interesting things that in a conversation that we've been having with folks is the old adage that you want to have as much in bonds as your age. That's something that's been an adage for the last 30 or 40 years, meaning that the older we get, the more that we want to have fixed income in bonds. And for some people, that's still probably applicable, but for a lot of folks, because of the relationship between rising interest rates and bond values, when interest rates rise, generally bond values decline depending on the bond. That might not actually be the right adage. That might not be the right recipe moving forward. So what we always want to do is we want to make sure we come back to the plan, set proper expectations, educate, and really help folks focus on the long-term goals and desires, and make strategic tweaks and changes every once in a while, maybe tactical, but just bring them back to the importance of that plan.
For each one of you, you talk about silver linings. What's something that excites you about where we are right now in this moment, looking forward?
I'll start with the silver linings of a down market and just give you a few different things that are good to think about doing. Silver linings is a good way to say it. I say, again, it's kind of making lemonade with maybe the situation that no one really enjoys. So, the first one is just really very simple of just, and really most of these are just takes on this first idea of buy low. You've got time. If you have money that you're not going to use, it's a good time to get new dollars invested. Exactly to what you were saying earlier, Jeremy, from a valuation standpoint, we're buying 90 cents on the dollar. So we're getting more bang for our buck with the new dollar that's going in. So a new contribution, looking at your investment allocations. If you're invested more conservatively today than you need to be, it's a good time to turn the aggression level up potentially. You're tying it to the account and your goals and what you're comfortable with. But if you're in a conservative allocation today and you've got 10 or 20 years before you're going to use the money, it's a relook at that and say, a fixed income and move it over to the stock side. Similar to that, just rebalancing accounts. It's a good time to rebalance accounts, and that's just just kind of a little bit of a twist on that, of just shifting some bond money potentially to the stocks while they're down. From a tax standpoint, it's a really good time to look at conversions. So the idea there is, if you've got pre-tax retirement accounts, you're going to pay income taxes on those dollars at some point, outside of charitable giving, actually, which we can come back to. So, but you're going to pay taxes on pre-tax IRAs at some point. And again, the idea of 90 cents on the dollar, if you've got $100,000 in an account, it goes down to 90,000. At 90,000, you pay taxes on 90,000 instead of 100 in the future, more. So, by getting money converted from pre-tax to after-tax, meaning Roth, you can lock in the value at a lower amount while the market's down. And then when the market rebounds, that appreciation is tax-free inside of a Roth. So that's one thing that it's a good thing to look at, especially if you're planning on doing this. To Chris's point, we want to do the planning ahead of time because we want to think through the tax implications. It's not a good idea just to willy-nilly, let's just start converting things because that's a major tax impact. But if you want to do a conversion, you want to do it. Hey, it's a good time, a push to do it.
Jeremy, one of the things I always appreciate about visiting with you is you always bring us back to the philanthropic and the charitable side of things. And as Brian alluded to, I mean, there's such great opportunities. One of the things that I see opportunity-wise here moving forward is, especially in the conversation, in the context specifically the conversation that we've been having over the last year or so with potential rise in taxes. And one of the things that hurt the nonprofit industry was several years ago when they doubled the standard deduction. A lot of folks, when the standard deduction was $12,000 as a couple, their charitable giving would allow them to itemize. Well, a lot of people didn't actually get over that amount once they doubled it, and so who knows where taxes turn out in the next handful of years. We do know as of right now that a lot of this stuff sunsets at the end of 2025 and would revert back. But in some of these conversations, if they do increase capital gains tax, for instance, for some folks, if they do increase the tax brackets for ordinary income, it makes charitable giving that much more attractive.
Chris, Brian, thank you for being cityCURRENT partners. Thank you for all you do. I love your philanthropic heart as well and the difference you make. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And we love talking about United Way of Greater Nashville. We are joined by their Chief Development Officer, Courtney Barlar. How are you doing, Courtney?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Doing well. So when you talk about United Way of Greater Nashville, you do a lot of good. And so we get to dive into all the programs and everything that you do. Give us a little bit of backstory. When you talk about United Way of Greater Nashville, give us some history, a little perspective on the mission.
Sure. So interestingly, our United Way is turning 100 years old this year. We were founded in 1922, which is really exciting. So we've been around for a long time, and even though we've changed a lot, we've evolved a lot of what we do really does stay true to that mission in 1922. We were founded by the business community to help lift up people in need, and that is still what we do today. Our mission is to make sure that every child, every family, and every individual in our service area can thrive. So even though it's been 100 years, we still really do stay true to that core mission of lifting people up in our community.
One of the things that I love and appreciate is, as you mentioned, you've got the support of the corporation. So you're the voice there, but you're also, too, an advocate and a convener for the nonprofits and bringing the community together in a collaborative way to be able to make a difference. So talk about how the magic works on your end in terms of manifesting the mission and delivering impact.
Sure. So I think one of the most exciting things that we get to do is, as you said, we work with over 100 nonprofit partners here in the greater Nashville area, and we cover 6 counties. And these are nonprofits that are doing amazing work, really high quality, serving clients, meeting needs. And a lot of them are bigger nonprofits that people are really familiar with, but a lot of them are small, 1-person, 2-person shops that are making a huge impact that maybe it's hard to move the needle on their own, but when you bring everyone together and you're talking about these really big, complex issues, you can't do it by yourself. You've got to have a collective group working on it. And that's really where we think our strength is bringing the nonprofit community together, bringing government together, school systems, and saying, hey, if we're going to fix a big issue, something like reading scores or, families experiencing homelessness, we have to work together to do it. And I know something that I feel so lucky to do, as you said, is, in my role, getting to work with these corporate partners and donors who want to do good and who want to help and who want to make a difference. We get to kind of live at that intersection between the two of them and give them a way to do good in our community and kind of see these light bulb moments go off of like, oh, that's how I can help. So it is part of kind of the magic that we get to be a part of. It's a lot of hard work, but something that we can't do without the collaboration between these amazing nonprofits, our other partners in the public sector, and of course, our donors and corporate partners that make it all happen.
I know you have certain strategic focuses: break the cycle of poverty, give kids equal chance. Talk about some of the major initiatives on your end. And I know literacy, obviously, for the upcoming event is a big piece of that, but talk about some of the strategic initiatives and focuses.
Sure. Yes. Outside of literacy, which, yeah, we can get into in just a moment. I mean, breaking the cycle of poverty is a big one for us. And that encompasses a lot of different elements. It's everything from workforce development. So making sure, as many people know, Nashville is hot right now. There are a lot of jobs coming to town. There's a lot of opportunity. We want to make sure that people that are here can access that opportunity, that they have the training and the background, the skills, the certifications that they need to take advantage of this really fantastic job market. And to go alongside with that, you think about some, financial supports that you can put into place. So one of our great programs that we run is called the Financial Empowerment Center, and it provides free one-on-one financial counseling for anybody who lives and works in our area. So when you pair that with, okay, let's help get individuals into a higher paying job, then let's help them learn how to keep more of what they earn, and we've had just amazing stories come out of the Financial Empowerment Center about the financial goals that individuals wanted to meet and how they met that goal and saw even beyond that. First-time homeowners, people sending their children to college, first-generation college students, just things that are life-changing in their trajectory, which is pretty amazing. And then, of course, too, we do a lot within health as well. And health can mean to us, what we kind of think of as health when you first say it is access to a doctor, access to mental health. But we really think about your environment as being something that is a part of your health. So a lot of our work in that area is working with families who are either experiencing or at the risk of experiencing homelessness. So that is a program that we started in 2014 that's now expanded out to many of the counties around us, working with families, helping them to either stay housed or keeping them from falling out of housing. And once again, wrapping those supports around those families with the financial counseling and, career attainment. So a lot of ways they kind of layer on top of each other, but things that we really do want to just help everybody in our community thrive.
You've been with United Way for over a decade. Give me maybe one or two of your favorite moments, experiences, things that really light you up when you kind of look back at the impact for you personally over the last 10 years.
Oh, sure. I know that's hard to do. I've been so lucky to see so many amazing things over the years. I mean, I think certainly more recently, just the way that our team was able to jump in during 2020. When COVID hit, we managed the COVID Response Fund in partnership with Mayor Cooper here in Nashville to help mainly keep people housed, keep people stable. And then also we helped manage a lot of the CARES Act funding too. So pushing out dollars into the community, which ended up being over $60 million that went out in kind of the Middle Tennessee footprint. And the team that did that work, I mean, we were all a part of it, but especially our community impact team who just jumped in on top of their everyday jobs to do this extra lift that was so important. That was really special. And just, the reason why I think we were reminded why we're here, that we're here not only to do this work that's a part of our mission, but kind of when these moments of emergency arise and we had the capability and the capacity to jump in a big way. That was pretty amazing. And I will say the other thing that I think is really special too is we have a major giving society for United Ways. It's called the Tocqueville Society. It was actually founded right here in Nashville in 1981. So we celebrated the 40th anniversary last year. But over the years, we've gotten to be a part of some really special celebrations with that group. It started in Nashville, but is now the major giving society across the world. So we're really proud of that in Nashville, and just to kind of have a front seat to witness the amazing generosity of that group and the commitment. I mean, we have members that have been in that group since day one and continue to be members. That is pretty amazing. And I just feel lucky to have even just been a small part of that work as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned your team jumping in and really playing a very active role, obviously, with everything going on with COVID and the COVID relief efforts. What's something that you've learned in this process, either for you personally or with the organization, across the organization, that you think is going to make you stronger coming out of the pandemic? So obviously all the roller coaster ride and some of the changes and technology and everything else, what do you think when you look at going through the process of what the pandemic has been for the last, over 2 years, what do you think is going to help you come out stronger on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always knew that to do this type of work, you need to work together. But I think the pandemic made us realize you have to work together. It is necessary to be able to weather something like this. And I think a great example of something that we set up during the pandemic that we had on a small scale before, but we expanded it as something that was so beneficial, was every single one of our nonprofit agencies that could do direct assistance to clients. So either, rent assistance, utility assistance, they were set up on a central network. It's called the Financial Assistance Network. So that if a family came into one nonprofit, they only have to go through one entry system. They can maybe get connected with other nonprofits for other services as well. And it kind of kept that accountability as well, so that we knew exactly where every dollar was going. We can make sure it was all being used really wisely. And that required a lot of working together and a lot of collaboration and a lot of, it's easy to want to all of us hold on to what we do. It really just made us say, like, okay, we all do great things. We all have strengths, but we're even stronger all together. So I think it was just a reminder of how much working together is so, so necessary. And I would say the same, working on the fundraising side of the house, the way that our corporate partners just showed up and said, okay, what do you need? What can we do? We want to help.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for watching the cityCURRENT Show, which is produced by cityCURRENT with funding provided by Lipscomb & Pitts Insurance, a Higginbotham company. To learn more about each of the guests, to share your stories of others, leading by example, or to watch past episodes and more media focused on good news, visit our website at citycurrent.com or follow along on social media using the handle or hashtag citycurrent. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and thank you for all you do to power the good.